Do you like 50 Shades of Grey? Do you like boys love? Well, there's a game that combines the best and worst, emphasis on worst, of both. Where do I even begin with this game? It's a mess. Sub for You is a Chinese boys love visual novel for Steam, and it is so messy. Dive into the world of BDSM along with Li Ling and explore the pleasures that come from total domination. I love trolling Steam for low-budget visual novels with questionable translations. There's just something about playing something you know is probably going to be really bad, only to find it entertaining instead, and I hit the jackpot with Sub for You. Sub for You follows Li Ling, a university teacher with erectile dysfunction, after he's invited to participate in a BDSM club by his senpai to help cure his condition. At first, the sexually repressed Li Ling feels out of place at the club. That is until he sees Dom Daddy Zhu Chun perform a BDSM demonstration. Captivated by the handsome Dom and the seductive aspects of BDSM play, Li Ling finds himself wanting to give himself over to this new world of pleasure and domination. Unfortunately for him, Zhu Chun isn't taking on any new subs, especially inexperienced ones like Li Ling, so he rejects Li Ling right off the bat. Wanting to entice Zhu Chun, Li Ling trolls the internet for someone to help pop his BDSM cherry and ends up worse for wear. In a twist of fate, Zhu Chun offers to help Li Ling work through his trauma and takes him into his care. However, he warns Li Ling that he isn't looking for love. This is strictly a relationship between a master and a slave. And should Li Ling accept, Zhu Chun will fulfill all his sexual fantasies and cure his ED in the process. So the question most of y'all have, does Sub for You offer a nuanced look at BDSM? No, not really. In fact, more often than not, the writers fall back on existing icky stereotypes and tropes of the lifestyle that I really wish would go away. Like both Li Ling and Zhu Chun seek out BDSM as a way to cope with past trauma and abuse. It's especially rough when we learn Dom Daddy Zhu Chun's backstory, and it's a little too close to Mr. Christian Grey's for my liking, which really undermines some of the good BDSM representation that is actually in the story. Believe it or not, there are a few instances in Sub for You where BDSM is explored in a meaningful way. Early on, there's an emphasis put on how Dom-Sub relationships are built on genuine trust, active communication of needs, and consent. Let me say that for the folks in the back. Consent. Rather than folks just getting off on inflicting pain or receiving pain. Not to say that those types of unhealthy relationships aren't depicted in the game, because they are. But there's always a clear line between what is acceptable BDSM play and what's just abuse. This is especially noteworthy in Zhu Chun and Li Ling's relationship, which from the start is presented as a healthy BDSM partnership, which you could argue it is in comparison to some of the other stories we see in the game. Zhu Chun is much more experienced in BDSM, whereas Li Ling is new to the lifestyle and fresh off of a traumatic situation with a bad dom. He is in a vulnerable state that could easily be taken advantage of, but Zhu Chun is always mindful of Li Ling's mental and physical well-being. He gradually initiates Li Ling into his role as a sub, setting up boundaries to protect both of them from harm during their play, which is especially important given Li Ling's masochistic tendencies that drive him to seek out more harmful behaviors. At the start, Li Ling is down bad for Zhu Chun, and who wouldn't be? Dom Daddy is fine. So he seeks out BDSM as a way to cure his trauma and to seduce Zhu Chun. Sure, he's intrigued by the lifestyle, but his early motivations for becoming a sub is solely to get close to Zhu Chun. Because of that, Zhu Chun is hesitant to fully integrate Li Ling into the lifestyle, preferring to gradually transition him into a more vanilla lifestyle after he overcomes his trauma. Read his ED. There was effort to try and tell a decent story involving BDSM, like the focus on how liberating dom-sub relationships can be for someone. As Li Ling delves deeper into the world, he comes to an understanding about himself and his sexuality, becoming a much stronger and confident person as a result. Being a sub is about empowerment for Li Ling, and they do a really good job of exploring that growth through the story. Sub for You is a game about BDSM, so there are actual depictions of BDSM play in the game. Characters get whipped and flogged, and there are CGs depicting characters with whip marks on their bodies. And Li Ling and other subs are called slaves often. Nothing in this game is censored. The peens are on display, but so are the whippings. There's a particular scene where Zhu Chun gives into his more sadistic tendencies during a session with Li Ling, where he whips him well beyond his limits, and it is rough to get through. Not to mention the unavoidable sexual assault scene that happens early in the game. And no, Zhu Chun is not involved. So, if this isn't your cup of tea, maybe pass this one up. The English translation in this game is awful. Awkward phrasing, stilted writing, and word choices that are just laughably bad are the norm, not the exception. My personal favorite is how instead of moaning during sex scenes, Li Ling will go woo, woo, like a train. It's crazy work. Sub for You is readable, but this translation could have done with another read or 5. Now, the art is actually really good considering the price tag. In fact, it's way too good for a game like Sub for You. But I did notice that the sprites for some of the characters don't always fit with the story. It's clear a lot of art assets may have come from different sources, especially for the side characters. The scenes at the BDSM club hidden have all the characters in costume. And there's one character in a barbarian outfit, another in what looks like a circus performer's costume, and another guy in a cat mask. And Zhu Chun is in a military commander's uniform. None of it matches anything, and it's distracting as fuck. But the CGs are fine, so I'm guessing that's where the bulk of the budget went. Also, there's no voice acting, but there are sound effects for the sex scenes and the BDSM play scenes. So you can hear the delightful sounds of fluids squelching and whips cracking for immersion. So final thoughts on Sub for You. Let me be clear, Sub for You is not a good game. Entertaining, sure, in a cringy, messy kind of way, but good it is not. This is a game that could have done with way more polishing to iron out some of those kinks, no pun intended. But for just over $5, there are worse things you could throw your money at. I hesitate to fully recommend it because the depiction of BDSM is not the best, but it is an entertaining story, and if you have a little extra cash and are curious about a BDSM BL game, why not pick this up, for the lulz? But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Are you going to be picking up Sub for You, or is this going to be on your pass list? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and let me know what you think down in the comments section. And if you want to see more content from me, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any new uploads. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is in your neck of the woods, and I'll catch you in the next video.